So I don't think there's ever been a better time in terms of pricing to buy an e-bike. The 23 season has come to an end and dealers are trying to clear their showrooms, and there is some incredibly aggressive pricing going on. I've seen like bike prices that I haven't seen for 4 or 5 years. And this bike here is no exception. This bike is nuts in many ways. The spec of it, the value for money of it, the weight of it, like everything about this is nuts. And I love it. I love things that are a little bit different and are kind of not just cookie cutter bikes. If every bike looked the same, it would be a more boring world. And I like things that stand outside the norms, like the Pole Voima, that CNC'd crazy e-bike with 190 travel. And this one here, this is a 180 with a dual crown fork and a massively beefy, burly build. This is the Haibike NDURO 8. My first experience of riding a Haibike was actually at the Mega Avalanche. I did the qualifying on a Haibike NDURO, 180 travel. And I really enjoyed it. I survived the Mega Avalanche on the earlier generation of this, like 4 years ago or so. And when I saw this, I was like, damn, that's a lot of bike for the money. And over the past couple of months, the price has come down even more. So when I saw this bike for £4,500, I was really interested in actually owning one for myself. The suspension alone is near on £3,000. These Ohlins downhill 38 forks, you buy the fork and then you buy the crowns separately. And the shock is about 700, but it's like £3,000 worth of suspension. The wheel set is the Mavic D-Max S wheel set, the S30, which retails at £720. So just the wheels and the suspension are like £3,500, which is incredible considering the entire bike is £4,500. I've not actually got out on the bike yet. The weather's pretty dire in the UK, so it's just been in the studio. I've set it up and I've changed just a couple of bits. I've put a 210 one-up dropper in there and one-up high-rise carbon bar, 35mm, because the stock bar is quite flat and it only came with a 170 dropper. But the 210 fits pretty much slammed, which is really cool because I like to run the droppers as low as possible. So headline details, mullet, 29 at the front, 27.5 at the rear, 63.5 degree head angle. So it's basically built for bombing downhill as fast as you can. This is not a lightweight bike. In fact, this is probably the heaviest bike that I've ever had or ever tested. It weighs 27 kilos in this build here. Everything on it is beefy and burly. It's not going to win any lightweight, agile, nimble kind of awards at all. And I mentioned that I rode the Mega Avalanche on one many years ago, and this could probably be thrown down the whole Mega Avalanche course and still survive because everything about it just screams like beefiness and burliness and built to withstand a lot of abuse. The DH38 fork is 180 in travel. Now you can change the air shafts inside. You could potentially run a 200mm. I'm not sure if that's covered under warranty, but something that I might try in the future. And it's got 180mm of rear wheel travel with that Ohlins coil. Now this is actually a downhill shock. It's a 75mm shaft, so you don't need an incredibly high spring rate to get the rear to achieve sag, and it's freer to move through the travel. So the wheel set is a Mavic D-Max S30, not a lightweight wheel set, but is rated to ride up to 180 kilograms of weight. So that tells you just how kind of capable this wheel set is. It's probably one of the heavier wheel sets on the market, but it's an e-bike wheel set that's rated for riders up to 180 kilos. Brakes, it's got the Magura MT7s with a 223 rotor on the front and a 203 on the rear. And it comes stock with a Schwalbe Magic Mary on the front and a Big Betty on the rear. So big chunky tyre on the rear, 2.6, and a Super Gravity casing and a Super Trail casing on the front. I probably will play around and experiment with those tyres. The front one could be a thicker casing. I'll add a little bit more weight onto the bike, but when you're hitting 27 kilos, what's another couple of 100 grams? So talking about the electronics, it's got the Yamaha PWX3 motor. I've not used this one yet. I used the predecessor on the previous gen Haibike, but this is a PWX3, it's called, with 85 Newton meters of torque and a 720 watt-hour battery. So my previous experience on the Yamaha motor is it didn't feel quite as punchy as I guess the benchmark is the Bosch when we're talking about full power motors. Wasn't quite as punchy and it was quite fidgety to get going. It was really eager to start up. So I'm intrigued to find out how this PWX3 motor performs. There's a lot going on with the buttons and the cables out the front. So there's a wired controller to change the modes. And there's this really big, chunky plastic, kind of ugly looking display that doesn't really do much or show much. It just shows the battery level and the mode that you're in. But what I do like about it is it will pair to my Garmin, and there is an eBike field on the Garmin watch. So I can actually get the battery percentage to show on my watch. It will give me the exact battery percentage, rather than this kind of rubbish, just battery 5-bar thing that's on that really big chunky display that's on the front. Now the drivetrain is a SRAM GX drivetrain. It is a UDH compatible, so you could run SRAM's new transmission on here. I'm just going to run the regular cabled stuff for now. I have put some slightly shorter crank arms on. I had a set of these EXO crank arms, so stock is 165, so I'm going to put a 160, or I've already put a 160 crank arm. So geometry wise, 63.5 degree head angle, pretty steep 77 degree seat tube angle. The bottom bracket height is quite low. It's 342 mil according to my measurements. So yeah, I've put on the shortest crank arms that I've got available, but I would like that a little bit higher, especially on a 180 travel e-bike. Like 344 is pretty low for a long travel, big, heavy e-bike like this. Reach is 510 mil, which for my size, 6'3" or 190 centimeters, that's pretty good. And it feels like pretty nice just sitting on it in the studio. I know that's no accurate representation of how this bike's going to ride, but the fit just sat on it and bouncing around in the studio feels good. Now it's got a pretty long chainstay of 460 mil. I am really enjoying riding bikes with longer chainstays. I find them much more balanced on the XL bikes especially. A longer chainstay positions your weight a little bit more central on the bike. You can get more weight on the front tyre naturally without having to really shift your body weight super far forward. And on the climbs, it really does help having that little bit of extra length out the back to get the grip and to stop the front wheel lifting. Personally, I don't believe short chainstays have a place, especially on bigger bikes, because they just lack stability, and I find the front end lifting. And yeah, you do find that they are a little bit more agile and playful, but for the important stuff like grip on the front wheel and grip when you're climbing and balance, far outweigh that for me. So I'm really interested to find out what this ride's like with that 460 chainstay. Now my benchmark bikes are just sending enduro style tracks are the Crestline, which has got a 455 chainstay, the Kenevo 455, and the Polevoima 455. Long wheelbases, longer chainstays, and that kind of geo suits me to the ground. I really love that. I much prefer riding bikes that have a longer wheelbase. Not for everybody, I know that everyone has different preferences, and some people like a shorter chainstay and a shorter, more agile bike, but for me, I like just to plough, really. I'm much more at home just ploughing through and charging through rock gardens and that kind of stuff I really enjoy. Now I've just got to give a shout out to the electric bike shop who I actually ordered the bike from and collected it from their store in Gloucester. Now I said to them I'm going to make a video, so they gave me a really good deal on the bike, just being open and honest. And I did actually ask them myself if I could get a discount code to share with anybody else that's interested in purchasing the bike from them. They said yes, so there's a further £250 off this bike. Not sponsored this, have not paid me any money at all. And I did actually ask them for this code myself. They didn't propose this. It's something that I tried to get. So if anyone wants this, they can save a bit of money. And look, bike shops are really finding it tough at the moment, so any extra for them is a bonus too. I think this is an amazing time to buy e-bikes right now. I don't think we're going to see these super low prices for much longer. So $4,500 for something like this, or 4,250 with that code that's down in the description. It's a lot of bike for 4,250 quid. Any questions you've got about the bike, put them down below and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you soon.